week we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm in St. Petersburg, Russia, at one of the largest bookstores in the city, Bukvayet, and I'm getting ready to speak to a group about my new book on the crisis. And what I thought I'd do is, before I did that, is I would address our sold audience about something that I'm getting a lot of questions on, and that is whether or not you should buy this book on the crisis. Now, don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you, believe me. For salespeople, I would not necessarily recommend that you buy the book, because the book is more about how to deal with the crisis from a management standpoint than from a sales standpoint. However, it's probably not a bad idea to read the book, considering the fact that there is a section on sales, and if you are in sales, you need to understand more about the crisis and how companies are going to be dealing with it. What I thought I'd do this week is I would pull out some sections that deal specifically with sales and kind of twist them more for salespeople, because there's a lot in here that salespeople can learn from and practically use. Now, I have no doubt that you're going to have to drop your price sometime during the crisis. Here's the thing, though, I want you to understand. You want to wait before you do it. Understand that dropping your price in the crisis as an initial first response is a bad idea for 50 different reasons. My suggestion practically is to consider these three things. Number one, think about how you're going to drop your price and whether or not you need to drop it initially. A lot of companies don't really need to drop their price, and they find out that as their competitors are dropping their price, them keeping their price high isn't necessarily a competitive disadvantage. Number two, and this is very important, when you do drop your price, understand that you don't drop your price for everyone. There are many clients that will still pay the price you've been charging. In fact, I've got clients that I will probably raise my price on, and they'll pay it. Now, of course, they may complain a little bit, they may negotiate with me, but I'll still be able to get full price. And the third thing to take into consideration is this. When you're working with your customers during the crisis, don't walk in and drop price immediately, and only do that as a last resort. I know that most clients are going to be talking to you about dropping price and about your product being too expensive, no matter what you sell or what your situation is. But remember, that's their first pre-programmed response. The reality is that if you sell effectively and you build value, very often you won't have to drop the price for everyone. It's very important if you're in sales to understand where your revenue is coming from and what your customers are buying. Now, salespeople will tell you they understand their metrics, but the reality is most of the time they don't. Now, if you don't have CRM software and not able to do this in an automated format, fine. At least create some sort of pen and paper system to where you can keep track of your customers and the revenue they're bringing. I don't understand why salespeople don't do this, but I can tell you, as things become more intensified, the less you know about the customers that you're working with and how much value they bring to you, the greater disadvantage you are, and not only from a competitive standpoint, but also from a practical one as well. All salespeople know that most of their sales come from a very, very small percentage of the customers that they work with. Now, in a crisis especially, you've got to be close to those customers, because you need to be able to respond to changes in the environment that affect those customers. And I can tell you this, if I was your competitor, I would be going after those customers as much as I possibly could, especially if they have buying capacity and buying potential. So remember, don't neglect those core customers, the ones that you really have the tight relationships with. Because if you do, you can make the crisis even worse for yourself than it's already going to be. Now, this is something I just don't get. Why is it that salespeople, when they hear no from their customer one time, they forget about them? Look, I would go back through every single customer that I've ever talked to and rehash that business. Meaning, talk to them about what you got going on with the crisis and how your company might be able to help them out now. This is very important. And I can tell you, with working with so many sales organizations, I find a gold mine in most of them every time I work with them from all the customers that they talked to one time and they didn't go back and follow up on. Just because it's a crisis doesn't mean that you shouldn't follow up with customers that you haven't sold in the past.
This episode continues next week on Sold. Here's a sneak preview.
If you're used to only making the big sales, going elephant hunting as I call it, and you let all the small sales pass you by, you may be losing an enormous opportunity, not only to keep your sales volume high, but also to keep your customers happy and keep them away from your competitors. If you're gonna change your payment terms, make sure that the customer is gonna trade you something for that, either a bigger sale or more consistent business. And whatever you do, don't stop looking. That's right, don't stop looking for new potential customers.
Don't miss it.